2.2, an introduction to problem solving. So writing and simplifying algebraic expressions. This is a really important chapter, or section, 2.2. So make sure you really get it down, watch it a couple times, focus on your homework for this. 2.2 is that first introduction of like really how to understand word problems. And I know that's something that we have trouble with, and I had the same exact trouble in school of just word problems are really difficult for me when I was learning them. But it took college for me to fully understand word problems and I finally feel like I get it for once. So watch this video a couple times if you have to, and if you need more resources, I'm here for you. Alright, so 2.2, an introduction to problem solving, writing and simplifying algebraic expressions. Example 1, twice a number plus 3 is the same as the number minus 6. Okay, so let's just break this down. Twice a number. So twice means 2 times. So if you're doing something twice, aren't you doing it 2 times? See? A number. A number, I have no idea what the heck that is. That's x. X, Y, W, potato, doesn't matter. We just say x. Plus, well, thankfully we know what that means. It just means plus. 3, okay, that's just a 3. Is, that always means equal. Is means equal. The same as, so this is the same as, it just means equal, but I just wanted to point out is means equals. The number, we don't know the number, but we said the number represents x. Minus, so I know minus, that's great, 6. So let's clean this up. We have 2 times x, that's 2x, plus 3 equals x minus 6. Now we can solve this. So we should be pretty good at solving for variables now, right? We got a grasp on it in 2.1. So the first thing we're going to do to both sides is subtract x to both sides, sorry. So when we do, we have 2x minus x is x plus 3. So we're left with x plus 3 equals negative 6. So we're going to subtract 3 to both sides. Sorry, subtract 3 to both sides, and when we do, we get x equals negative 9. So the number is negative 9. Alright, so general strategy for problem solving. 1 is to understand the problem. So to understand means to read and reread the problem. Seriously, read it a couple times until you start to memorize it. Propose a solution. So figure out what the heck are they asking me to do, because that's a hard part. Like in a word problem, you're like, okay, you're giving me all this stuff, but what am I supposed to do with it? If applicable, construct a drawing. Oh, I love drawings. Through the semester, you'll see my amazing drawings. That's very sarcastic. They're not amazing. I try. I'm literally trying. I like them. Anyways, if you can, draw it. In trig, calculus, pre-calc, drawing what they're telling you helps you figure out what the heck they're asking you to do. So draw it if you can. Choose a variable to represent the unknown. So if they're saying a number or whatever this is and you don't know it, choose a variable. We usually pick x or whatever we want the variable to represent. So if it was like the cost of this, so cost, we would say c. Alright, so step 2 is to translate the problem into an equation. So put it into numbers. Solve the equation is step 3. Step 4 is to interpret the results. So to interpret is to check the proposed solution and state your conclusion. Meaning, make sure your answer makes sense. It shouldn't be out of the ordinary, right? Alright, example 2. So our first step is to understand. So understanding means we're going to find the unknown and we're going to read it and read it and read it and read it. And seriously, it helps. So let's read it. The product of twice a number and 3 is the same as the difference of 5 times the number and 3/4. Find the number. Okay, first things first, it's saying that we're looking for a number. We're just talking about a number because it doesn't say another number. It just says a number, the number. So a number, the number, the number. So that's what it's asking us to find is one variable. So we're going to let x be the unknown number. So we're going to say x equals the number. Okay, let's read it again. The product of twice a number and 3 is the same, okay, as the difference of 5 times the number and 3/4. Okay. Seems like we got it there. Maybe we should propose a solution. What is it asking us to find? Let's see, what is it asking us to find? Find the number. Okay, so what are we trying to find? We're trying to find x. Because isn't x the number? Alright, so we're trying to solve for x here. That's our first step. Alright, our second step is to translate. Alright, so to translate, we're going to read it again and kind of break it down once more. Okay. I need way more space than that. There we go. So the product, we know that's multiplication. Twice a number. So twice a number. So the product of twice a number, that doesn't mean the same thing. So let's just break down twice a number. We know twice a number is 2 times x, so 2x. So twice a number. And now we're going back to the product of. So the product of twice a number and 3. That means we're putting these two things together. So the product of twice a number and 3. That means we're multiplying these two things together. So times, that's the product of. Three. We know 3, that's just 3. Awesome. So now we have the product of twice a number and 3. Is the same as, so we know is the same as, that's equals. So that stands for equals. The difference of 5 times the number. So you see at the beginning of the first sentence it said the product of, and then the second part it says the difference of. So you notice that's going to go in the middle. So let's figure out 5 times the number. So 5 times the number, we don't know it. So 5 times the number, that's 5x. And go back to the beginning, the difference of. So just like the product of, the difference of, the sum of, we're going to combine these two things. So minus, that's the difference of. And 3/4. So that's just what we're going to put at the end is the 3/4. Running out of colors here. Alright, let's clean this up. Let's make it look a little more legible. So we have 2x times 3 equals 5x minus 3/4. So that's what we have in number-wise. Now let's read the sentence again and see if it makes a little more sense to us now that we have the numbers. So the product of, so read with me in the orange. So in part 2 with the orange right here, read it with me. So the product of twice the number, here's the product of, and 3 is the same as the difference of 5 times the number and 3/4. Alright, so we translated it into math talk. Now we can solve. That's our third step, is to solve. So to solve, I'm going to do 2 times 3, which is, or excuse me, 2x times 3 is 6x, and that equals 5x minus 3 over 4. We have x's on opposite sides, so let's bring them together. I'm going to subtract 5x over. And we are done. We have x equals negative 3 over 4. So interpret. So to interpret is to make sure make sure that it makes sense, right? Like, these are smaller numbers, 2x, 3, 5x, 3 fourths. So those are smaller numbers. So should make sense that it's a fraction, it's a smaller number. It's not like it's a million or like 75,000, right? Make sure it makes sense. And then we state. So we're going to state our answer. Why do we have to state it? Because it's a word problem. Why is it a word problem? Because I ask in words. If you ask in words, you have to answer in words. That's the rule. So to state our answer, we say the number is negative 3 over 4. So that's our answer. You have to write it in a sentence. If you don't, you're technically wrong. And I'll explain more about that in college algebra. Okay. Example 3. A car rental agency advertised a car for $24.95 per day and $0.29 per mile. If you rent this car for 2 days, how many whole miles can you drive on a $100 budget? All right, our first thing to do is understand. So understand, we want to figure out variables. How many things are we actually talking about? So a car rental agency advertised a car for $24.95 per day and $0.29 per mile. See how those are 2 different quantities? So we have 2 different variables. So we usually just use x and y. So x represents the number of miles driven. It doesn't matter, that's just what I made it. You could flip them. So x is our number of miles driven. And then our other quantity is y. So y is the per day you have the rental. So now we have that. And let's figure out, what is it asking us? If you rent this car for 2 days, how many miles can you drive on a $100 budget? So what it's asking is, if you have $100 and a rental for 2 days, how much can you drive? So how many miles can you drive? That's what it's asking. All right, step 2 is to translate. All right, so we're going to take it not like spelling it out step by step. We're going to take it just a little quicker, but not too much faster. Just a little more. Okay, so a car rental agency advertised a car for $24.95 per day. So $24.95 per day. So we have our. That's gonna happen. So $24.95 per day. Isn't the per day stand for what? Cool. And always means plus and. If there's no preface. So preface is the product of, the difference of. $0.29, so that's just 29 cents. per mile. Isn't the per mile, doesn't that represent x? So 0.29x. And that equals, so isn't that the cost? Like once you put that together, like how many days you have it and how much you drive, isn't that the total of the cost? So how much money do we have to work with? We have $100 to work with. So it equals $100. Okay, we have our equation now. Now we're going to solve it. So our third step is to solve. All right, so we have two variables though. This is the equation we have. We have 24.95y plus 0.29x equals 100. So let's look back to see what they're giving us. So you see how going back and rereading, it really does help. So a car rental agency advertised a car for $24.95 per day. Okay, I have that number. And 0.29 per mile, I have that. If you rent this car for 2 days, how many miles if you drive if you have a $100 budget? So we have the $100 budget. The number that we didn't use, and they give it to us, we want to know, renting it for 2 days, how much is it going to cost us if we only, or how much can we drive? So if we're given days, and doesn't days represent the y? So we're actually given the y. So we have 24.95y. The y represents how many days you're renting this for. We're renting it for 2 days. And we're trying to figure out how many miles we drive it, can we drive it for. And that's what the x represents. It represents miles. So you see how that is the variable that's left? That's what it's asking us to solve for, right? Isn't it? It's asking us how many miles. How many miles is how many x's. So x should be the only variable there you need to solve for. So let's solve this. So 24.95 times 2, we get 49.90. Plus 0.29x equals 100. Yes, you are allowed to use a calculator, and I highly suggest you do. So we're going to subtract now by 49.90 because I want to get everything away from the x. And when we do, we are left with 0.29x equals 100 minus 49.9, so that's 50.10. And usually our last step is to divide, and it is here. So we divide by 0.29, and we get x is approximately 172.75. Alright, so that's our proposed solution. Now we have to interpret. You're going to see why this step is important. Because in example 2, you're like, why do I have to interpret? I know this is the answer. Okay, like this is it, right? This is why. This is why we interpret. Because our proposed solution is x is about 172.75. But can you rent a car for a 0.75 a day? No, you can either rent it for, or you can not rent a car. You can either drive it for 172 miles, or you can drive it for 173 miles. Because we only have a $100 budget. So we need to know what's going to put us over budget. So we have two possible solutions. Our two possible solutions is x equals 172. We round down to the nearest whole number. And x equals 173. We round up to the nearest whole number. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug them in to the equation that we have. So we're going to plug it in to not this equation, because we need to plug in two variables. We're going to plug it into, I will box it in blue, we're going to plug it into this equation, because this equation has the miles, and it's simplified. You could plug it into this equation, but why? Because you have to multiply by the 2 for 2 days. So that's why we plug it into the boxed equation that I have. So we're going to plug it in to both the proposed solutions. We're going to plug it into 49.90 plus 2x equals 100. Well, we're not going to put the equals. We want it to be over 100. But this is what we're going to plug it into. All right, so let's go ahead and plug it in. So we have 49.9, we don't have to put the 0, plus 2 times 172. So we have, well, come on, there we go. You can plug all of this into your calculator exactly the way it looks. And when you do, we get 99.78. All right, so let's do the other one, and then we'll talk about that answer and what it means. So let's do the same thing to the other one. We have 49.9 plus 2 times x, which is 173. So plug all of this into your calculator, and we get 100.07. But isn't our budget only $100? So our budget is only $100. That's all the money we have. So if we only have $100, I can't go over that. That's not within my budget. So 99.78, that is within the budget. 100.07 is not within the budget. So our answer is 172. So our solution, we need to state it. The maximum number of miles, of whole miles that can be driven is 172. Example 4. The measure of the second angle of a triangle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. The measure of the third angle of the triangle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Find the measure of the angles. Understand, that's our first step. So let's figure out what are we talking about here. So the measure of the second angle of a triangle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. The measure of the third angle of the triangle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Find the measures of the angles. So we have this word angle, second angle, third angle, blah, blah, blah. We're only talking about one angle, because it doesn't say we have a different angle in a triangle. It's just one angle, it's x. Because it wants us to find the measure of the angles, but x is just x. So x represents the angles. It's asking us to find the angles. That's what it's asking us to do. So our second step is to translate. So to translate, I'm going to break this down completely, just like I did in example 2. So the measure of the second angle of a triangle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. Still does nothing for me. The measure of the third angle of the triangle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Find the measures of the angles. Okay. So let's see, if something I do know. I know what triangle means. That's something we do know, right? I know what triangle means. It's like, okay, that's a word I understand. Triangle. Cool. I get that. So we're translating. I know triangle. I know something about the angles of a triangle. Triangle, the sum equals 180, meaning all the angles equal 180. So we know angle 1 plus, let me separate that. Angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 equals 180. You ever spell something, like you ever write the same word so many times, seems like you're spelling it wrong? That's what just happened with me. Okay, I'm getting somewhere. I have something now. Awesome. So let's break it down. Let's read it again. The measure of the second angle. Oh my gosh! I know the second angle. That's there it is. There it is. So the measure of the second angle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. Okay, well that doesn't really help me anymore. The measure of the third angle is the third angle. So the third angle, I know what that represents. That's this one right here. Is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. So do you notice it didn't say anything about the smallest angle? It's just comparing everything to the smallest angle. That means the smallest angle is just x. So we have x plus angle 2. So angle 2, the second angle is twice the measure of the smallest one. So if x is the smallest one, it's twice the size of it. So twice the size of it. And then the third angle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. So that's 3x. And that equals 180. So we translated it. Now we solve. So to solve, I'm going to combine like terms. We have x plus 2x is 3x. 3x plus 3x is 6x equals 180. We're going to divide by 6. And we get x equals 30. So 30 degrees, because we're talking about an angle. Angle is degrees. So now we interpret. So 30 degrees, that should make sense because you're talking about a triangle. So it shouldn't be like 750 degrees, right? It shouldn't be 300 degrees. It needs to be lower than 180. So now we're going to separate all our angles. So angle 1, that's the sign for angle, by the way. This is the sign for angle. So angle 1 was just x, remember? So it's 30 degrees. Angle 2, that's 2 times x. So 2 times x, which is 30 degrees, and that's 60 degrees. So angle 2 is 60 degrees. Angle 3 was 3 times x. So 3 times 30 degrees, and we get 90 degrees. So make sure it adds up to 180. 30 plus 60 is 90. 90 plus 90 is 180, so that we're good. So now we need to state our answer. To state our answer, so the measure of the first angle is 30 degrees. The measure of the second angle is 60 degrees. And the measure of the third angle is 90 degrees. And there's our answer. Why did we have to answer it that way? Because they ask in words, and if you ask in words, you must answer in words. Example 5. Your example 5 is missing a word. So the sum of 3 consecutive even, that's what it's supposed to say on yours. It's supposed to have that even. So the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is 252. Find the integers. So our step 1 is to understand. That's the step in everything. It's just to understand what's going on. The more we understand, the better things will be. You don't have to sympathize, but you should try to empathize. So the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is 252. Find the integers. So our variable is integers. So we can say x, that represents integers. Just means numbers. Math can teach us a lot about life. That's why I think it's beautiful. Alright, our second step is to translate. So after we empathize with people and kind of start to understand where they come from, we can translate to make ourselves better, right? See? I'm going to teach you way more than just math. All right, translate. So it says the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is 252. Okay, so the first integer, we haven't done anything, it's just going to be x. So we have 3 integers. We have the first one, we have the second one, and we have the third one. So our first one is just x, because we don't know what it is. And even, so even, if we're thinking of like even numbers, right, isn't that 2, 4, 6, 8, 10? Isn't this all plus 2, plus 2, plus 2? Aren't we adding 2 to the next one? So to get to 4, we plus 2 to get to the next one. So from the begin, my bad. So to get to the next one, from the beginning, from the original number, from here to here, isn't that plus 4? And then from here to here, isn't that plus 6? And then from here to here, isn't it plus 8? So keep that in mind. So our second integer, it's x, but we need to get to the next one. To get to the, so here, we're right here. So to get to the next one, we have to plus 2. So we're going to plus 2. Okay. So now to get to our third one, so we're here. We're still at the beginning. We're at x. We're at the beginning here at x, which is 2. Now we need to get to the third one. So to get to the third one from the beginning, that was plus 4. So we have to do x plus 4. And it is 252. So we're going to put all of these together to equal 252. So we have x, and it says the sum. So plus x plus 2. And we're going to add that to x plus 4. And it is 252, so it equals 252. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So to combine like terms, we have x and x and x, so that's 3x. 2 plus 1 is 3, and that equals 252. My bad. I wrote the wrong number. 2 plus 4. 2 plus 4, sorry, 2 plus 4 is 6, and that equals 252. And now we're on to our third, well, we're doing it right now. We're solving. That's our third step. We're solving now. So we're going to subtract 6 to both sides. And when we do, we have 3x equals 246. And then we divide by 3. So we get x equals 82. So that's what the first number is. So to translate our fourth step, our first number, so the integers are, our first number is 82, so the next one is 84, and the next one is 86.